Hello and welcome into the Cafe Nightly Show. It is the 8th of February, 2024. I am your host, the Goldsmith. It is 8 p.m. PT. It is Thursday, so we did have the UpX podcast a little earlier. Kind of always pushes me around a little bit, or I always push myself around a little bit with it. Good to watch, good to follow, but of course, it means we get a late start. There was a lot today. It's one of those days where the announcement that wasn't announced is the bigger announcement, and the one that had a fanfare and a formal announcement and letters on the page, that was a small announcement. So we'll get into the two big things again. I call it an announcement because we learned a lot very quickly, but it was also a fulfillment, or really a pre-announced, preordained, pre-discussed event. And even though we didn't have time, that was exactly what was promised. That was the release of Stockton and Trenton. Again, the promise from Upland was you will not get an announcement telling you what time these are going to happen. And lo and behold, there was not an announcement about the time these two happened. People felt a little hurt. Hey, I did not get the announcement. Well, it technically was an announcement. We're not going to tell you the time. It's just going to happen. We'll get into the specifics there, some of the reasoning, some takeaway, whether it's great, whether it's not, whether we think that it should happen again, or if it kind of flies in the face of the spirit of having these competitive mintings, or if again it is the best thing in the world because it opens up the opportunity that it's not the same 7 people who are out hunting, but really ends up being 7 people who got lucky and got on there and had the highest UpX values, who get a lot of collections. So we'll get into that. We'll have that discussion. And of course, the other big one today is another interesting one. You get to the end of the NFLPA season. We've talked about the USD versus UpX sales. We've talked about discounting in sales to potentially push USD sales. Do we discount assets when Upland goes to sell them? And we actually have a discounted sale, slightly discounted sale, by doing a bundle sale. It is USD only, and it is going to actually have some of potentially higher value mementos in it, because it's going to have some postseason mementos. So it is an interesting thing to see this happen. We've seen previously the postseason mementos, if go back 2 years, not last year, the year before, they were super expensive. I remember paying for a wildcard game 350,000 UpX for a single memento, and without knowing what the performance was going to be that game. Without knowing for sure what the performance was going to be that game. And luckily, it was a pretty decent performance. Luckily, that player went on to do a couple more have a couple more incredible games, and would have won a Super Bowl if not for his team letting him down. But of course, the key thing here is it is different. It's different this year. I'll get into some of the takeaways there as well, and that is, of course, the bundle sale here for mementos for the end of the year, the last one, the postseason, as well as some of the reserve from earlier in the season NFLPA memento sale. Before we get into all of that, of course, so same thing we do every night. All views and opinions expressed by myself, mine and mine alone. They don't constitute game strategy or financial advice. Please don't take them that way. Please do take context as it is, and do your own research as you need to better make your own decisions. Anything I do say does not necessarily constitute the views and opinions of the game or the team of Upland. I'd love to be saying things that are, in line with what the team feels. I'd love to be, right on with their opinions, with their thoughts. But at the same time, I don't necessarily always see eye to eye with the team. If there's something comes up that doesn't make sense, I'm going to say it doesn't make sense to me. But we'll kick things off, of course, by looking at the announcement that is the announcement, the one that's on paper, the one I can look at without having to just run through a recap of the day. So jumping in, taking a quick look here, take a quick look here, jump in, of course, and see what was the announcement, the specifics here on this sale. Again, looking at the sale of the NFLPA mementos. Again, this is a memento only sale. This is a sale that is going to be happening as a bundle, and it's USD only. Details on this will get that popped up as I'm doing so. This is something that was a pop up. It's up for hours today, so We'll log back in, it popped up, log out, log back in, it popped up. Was kind of a fun little whack-a-mole until it stopped popping back up. Resources here, taking a look at the news and the events today in Upland. And easiest is jumping back right here, big game bundle. Get that shared. Anybody who's watching the YouTube video here, it is. Take a quick look. If you are on Discord, I do want to always point you to the announcements channel in Discord, or you could always go into the Game of Upland. It is under announcements in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. It's usually pretty easy to get to there. There's that is. Look at that. Big game bundles. Big game bundle NFLPA sale of this season. Again, this is the last one, final sale. It is a bundle sale. So typically you could buy a bundle, you could get a memento and a couple legits. There's been other sales previously, not happening this year, but in previous year, where you would buy a single memento if that's what you choose to do. You choose which memento you want to purchase at what time. This is a little different. This is a bundle in that you're getting more than one. It is like a bulk sale. And that means that potentially you're getting a discount. It also means that the price per unit is going to be a little higher, or the price per bundle is going to end up being a little higher. These bundles are being offered in a way they've never been before. Each purchase guarantees not just one, but 3 total passes from this particular season, 23-24 season. Remember, every pass can be exchanged for a unique one-of-a-kind memento. The opportunity to exchange will become available immediately upon shipment of the pass. Quick here review of what is being offered. The bundle overview. We're going to have 3 passes in each bundle. No legits, just going to be memento passes, with each pass in every bundle guaranteed to, or every bundle to be guaranteed to have at least one pass that is Kansas City, San Francisco, or a special playoff pass. And again, definition here: Kansas City, San Francisco, or special playoff pass. Even though we know that the Kansas City and San Francisco are in the big game, it's not a guarantee that it's postseason. It could be any time of the year. I guess the thought here on Upland's part is because they both got to the big game. Ooh, I almost said the word. Because they both got to the big game, there's more reason for people wanting to collect them. I don't know if that's always the case, but I know some people feel that way. People who are, casual fans sometimes feel that way. So the way they set this up is they're guaranteeing one of those passes has an 86% chance that one of those passes being either Kansas City or San Francisco pass any time of the season, or you have a 14% chance that that particular pass is a playoff pass. Everything else is probably going to be during the regular season. The bundle represents a unique opportunity to collect significant moments in the NFLPA 2023-2024 season. There's going to be 320 of these bundles available. We've seen in the past, you had like 50 USD and 50 UPX bundles that included a pass. We had a bunch of other bundles that had a chance of getting a pass, not a guarantee of getting a pass. This one, you're guaranteed 3 passes. You don't know what you're going to get. It's a little bit of a grab bag here, but 320 of them available. These are USD only. There's not the UPX option, but it's a little lower price than we were doing before when we were doing the Game Pass bundle, which was $50 USD or 50,000 UPX. It was a single Game Pass, and it was another 4 legit. In this case, you are going to get 3 mementos. You guaranteed memento passes. They exchange into mementos. $75 for the bundle. Again, for 3 mementos, it looks like it is a discount from what it has been previous in this year, a discount from what it had been previously, with the exception that there is not that UPX value or UPX option. And notice they did say USD or crypto with the equivalent of $75. So there's going to be that potential to use crypto at time of sale to purchase in the equivalent of $75 USD. Registration opens Friday, February 9th at 8 a.m. PT. That's tomorrow morning. So 8 a.m. PT tomorrow, you can start getting registered. The sale does start on the 10th, this Saturday, 9 a.m. PT. That means that the registration will run 24 hours from 8 a.m. Friday into 8 a.m. Saturday. It's an hour period. hour period where those announcements go out, notifications go out by email. And those notifications by email give you an idea of where you are in order in line to go ahead and purchase. So when you can purchase. And again, price is $75 each. Get ready, gear up, drive into the excitement. This is the moment. Capture the spirit of the season in a way that is uniquely yours. Act fast, as this exclusive offer is here for a limited time only. These type of offers do sell out. I know we say limited time only. Upland said limited time only on the ETH sale, and then kind of made it sound like it was going to run for a while. It didn't. He sold out, except for the one UPX bundle, which one UPX. Well, I'm sorry, one ETH bundle, which is a significantly sized bundle, of course. It's a lot of USD equivalent to put into a single bundle of items in Upland. So we do see the same thing here. $75, I think, is a sweet spot. Keep in mind that there were up to 50 people. There were 50 people every week of the season that were willing to pay 50 USD to get a pass. Now they're paying $75. They're asking 320 people to pay $75 each to get 3 passes. I think the value there from what they've seen in the past is there, or exceeds what the value was before. I think they can come up with 320 people or a few people who want to buy a few times. So we'll see how this goes. Again, these do tend to sell out, especially if Upland sets the price point incorrectly. When they have a very high price point, obviously that's where we start to see that Upland can't sell at these types of sales. But of course, we'll see if the demonstrated demand at 50 USD translates to the a little higher $75, but for 3. Key notes here again that I do want to stress again. There is no guarantee that these are postseason. Even though this is a postseason sale, this is happening in the postseason. This is the final of the year. It's a grab bag. It's a mixture. It's what hasn't been distributed over the season. So it could be in earlier weeks of the season. There is a chance. It looks like that chance, like I said, is 14% that you will get one playoff pass, and not a guarantee of which game that's going to be from or which team that's going to come from. Upland sees guaranteeing people a Kansas City or a San Francisco pass from this year as a benefit. If it's a benefit for you, it's there. They're the 2 teams that are going to be in the big game. They're the 2 teams that people look at as being the best of the season. I have a little different thoughts, but again, you get into the postseason, and it's a single elimination. You're out. That's how football works. So we have the teams we have headed into the big game this coming Sunday. If you are going to be watching the game, enjoy the game. Be safe. Have a good weekend. Get enough sleep on Sunday night so that on Monday you can actually go to work and you don't end up with the big game flu like so many people end up having. And keep in mind that there is something happening overlapping right now. From Thursday into Saturday, we continue to have the burn of legits to go on the leaderboard to potentially, and I say potentially because only the top 10 will receive a replica. So that is still happening. That burn event, the burn leaderboard is still going to happen again Thursday through Saturday. Keep that in mind. So you know that there is plenty of football to participate in over the weekend. And then this sale again, 9 a.m. PT. Go figure. At the end of that burn event, 9 a.m. PT to go and burn. And again, as Upland go and purchase, and as Upland said, the redemption of these will be seems to be available as soon as the sale happens, or at least you're going to get your passes as soon as these sales happen. Many of these are going to be redeemable immediately because theoretically the games have already happened earlier in the season. Pretty easy there. What I do want to put it here over the NFLPA, it definitely is worth noting. I'll say it one more time this year, and then we can see what happens next year. There was a couple things that were promised this year early in the season that were actually going to happen this year. It took until like the end of the season for them to actually happen. The replicas was something that was said, yep, 2023, 2024, we'll have replicas. They're coming. And they did come. It took the end of the season. Upland changed things on the NFLPA to be bundles. So there was that randomization. There wasn't the same, I'm going to go only buy my favorite legits. I'm only going to go and buy my favorite mementos. I'm going to go and race to potentially get the best memento of the best player. But nobody really wants to get the average mediocre. The guy just moved chains, but he doesn't score touchdowns. That's what was happening last year and previous years when they had the individual purchase option. This year, moving to the bundle sale, I think overall there was more excitement about the sales. There was probably more revenue overall, especially with more of these being USD sales, probably more revenue overall in that people were willing to pay not the highest price that they could pay to get the superstar, not the lowest price and guaranteeing themselves the chain mover, but a price at somewhere in the middle, like we see typically with bundle sales, and then they get what they get. It's a little bit of rolling the dice and getting lucky. You can trade, swap, and sell if you choose to do so. If you get the best and you want to just sell it, or you get one that is not your favorite team, or get a player who's not on your favorite team, you can go and trade that, swap that, sell that on the open market. And I like that because there definitely was more activity this year, or a little bit more activity this year than we had seen on the secondary market previous years, because you could go and buy whatever legit you wanted to. And since people weren't buying the team and the players as much as they had in the past, they were kind of swapping more, selling more, buying more in the secondary to meet out these requirements when we had team-specific contests. And that's exactly what the burn event was, is team-specific, burning for a specific team, being on a specific leaderboard, and being on the top 10 to get a replica. So I am glad to see that this kind of pushed a little bit of the selling and swap as a portion of gamification, or tying into gamification. It's a good thing, I think. I'm looking forward to more next year. We've talked about a few things for a few years now with the NFLPA partnership. We've talked heavily about the concept of sign eventually, and having player representatives interact in the community in different ways. And there was some mild behavior, mild motions towards that previously. Having the replicas now is something that's been promised for years. We now have, and hopefully next year, 2024, 2025 year, brings some of those things that were discussed earlier. Looking at this continuing to be an ongoing partnership. From what Upland said earlier this season, it's not something that is sunsetting anytime soon. So looking for more of those features next year, with the caveat that a couple things were added this year, and the couple things that were added seem to work and seem to drive a little more excitement and a little more participation with these this year than some of what we had seen last year, especially since we had a bunch of the mementos go unsold in previous years, just sitting there because they weren't people's favorite player. So let's take a look at the one other thing, just so we have it in front of us for this year for NFLPA, and that obviously is going back a step, further step than I thought it did. A step to look at the replica challenge. Again, just a reminder here, we already mentioned the dates, just a couple things as reminders. Again, we do have this last burn period is already kicked off. It started this morning at 9 a.m. PT. The burn period lasts until the 10th at 9 a.m. PT, so easy enough. Keep in mind that each memento not memento, don't burn mementos. Each legit you burn is 1 point. The higher the points, the better you're going to be ranking on the leaderboard. Top 10 on the leaderboard for each team. Those are the ones who get a replica. 2 notes. One is that there is a delay in the update. So it's a little bit of cat and mouse, a little bit of chicken, where you are going to burn as few as you have to get in the top 10, but you don't know for sure if somebody has burned a bunch right up next to the end. So you burn a bunch extra to get a little bit of insurance there. I think we're going to see that again, like we've seen before. Last week, or in the last round, we saw that push up the top of the leaderboard. A lot of people burned extra. Also, there's a couple extra points you can sneak in here. And they get snuck in after the end of the burn event. And the way those get burned, or the way that burn happens, that's going to be those bonus points, is going to be if you burn the best player of the game, as determined by the fire rating that Upland uses. If you burn the best player of the game during that burn period, obviously the game happens the next day. So it's not determined until after the fact, but that goes back and modifies your score on the leaderboard, meaning we're not going to actually have winners to the day after the game, more than likely. But there's no guarantee that even though you burnt the most of anybody, that you're going to be in the top 10, because those 9 other people who are behind you, they could go and have burnt the player of the game, and you don't know who that's going to be until the game's over, because there's a little bit of parity between the two teams. So, depending on who has a hot night, the player you thought was going to be the superstar of the game may not have that opportunity, may not be the hero, may end up losing and going home in shame and not go to Disney World. So we'll see what ends up happening here. Again, one of the things that people like to say is, gambling adds a little excitement to the game. This ultimately, it's a little bit of gamification. I'll say put it that way. A little bit of gamification, and hopefully the two wash among each other. If you are interested in football and you are going to be watching the game on Sunday, maybe you participate a little bit in this burn event. Just go, you have, and you feel like you burnt the player who's going to be the best, just so you can see what happens. Keep in mind, there is no guarantee you will get a replica. Only the top 10 do. The previous weeks, I've been surprised by how many legits had to be burned for people to end up earning a replica. So that's a choice that you have to make and determine based on how much you value that replica. Caveat is, replica is worth 70% of the fan points of a memento. Other than that, they're not a 1 of 1. They're a 1 of 10. It is postseason, so maybe postseason adds up the value a little bit. I don't know. That's a calculation that I'm going to leave up to the market, and the market hopefully has some concept now, because you're going to have to do as much as you choose to do during this burn event to see if you can get as high as you can on the list. I do want to say, or do want to put out there, that if I look at the final NFLPA divisional round, we had people burning 50, 60, 70, 40, 50, all over the board here, but the top 10 above 23 here on the divisional round, that it seems like a lot. That seems like a lot for me. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, that there was a lot of burns that went down to push things through. So if you are making those choices, good luck to you. Just do what's in your own ability. Don't buy a bunch of legits, burn them all, and then be surprised when you don't get top 10 on that list. Getting into what isn't on the list today, I guess I can look at the announcement here. And it's worth reading the language on the announcement, because some people read it, some people didn't, some people read it and were still hurt by it. And that was the announcement that essentially told us we're going to get 2 cities, Trenton and Stockton, that they're going to be designed around FSA players, that Upland has a strategy. And again, I will have my own thoughts about the strategy, but it has a strategy on how they want to release the city. They want to release the city around the concept of those FSA players, and not the longtime players, you and I and others, who've put a lot of UPICs in the game and sit on 500,000, 600,000 UPICs when we go into, or more, I should say, or when we go into these city releases. So the key thing here is 85% of those properties are going to be designated as FSA. Pretty easy, pretty simple there. All property collections in these star cities were disclosed beforehand, so they were standard releases. And what happens when we have a standard release instead of vanilla is, when we have a collection multiplier, up to 11 times multiplier on a rare, more on up to 21 on a ultra rare, we end up seeing that those prices end up getting so heavily priced or adjusted that they are no longer FSA properties. What that means is we had a strong concentration of collection properties, like the higher collections especially, that ended up being available for the common person the people who are pro status and up, the people who are eligible under pro status, the uplanders who are eligible for FSAs. They didn't get the majority of those collections because there were too much UPICs for them to buy. They didn't have enough UPICs in their account because they're too expensive, and they weren't reserved specifically for those players. So what that means, or what that ends up meaning, is it's nice for those players who are going to be able to technically have enough UPICs in their account to purchase those, to be able to go and purchase those. What happened, and as a promise from the team, let's take a look at this promise here, might as well. Again, the promises on these cities are primarily designed as FSA areas, and this is we will not be announcing their release times in advance. The approach is taken to maintain the integrity and the purpose of FSA cities, ensuring equal opportunity for new players to engage and invest in the upland community. Again, that was this idea where I think this concept from the not having a finite time is they wanted people to slide in, new players to be able to slide in as this happened. And maybe a new player who joined, an hour in, maybe they wouldn't all be eaten up by people making strategies and plans around FSA. Maybe if Upland felt that if there was going to be a specific time, there'd be people who would contact FSA or status players and say, hey, go buy this property for me. Hey, go buy this property for me. It's been a strategy for a long time. I haven't been a big fan of it or big endorser of it, because what it does, even if it gives profit to the new player, it kind of takes away that new player's ability to be part of the free market. Sometimes it takes away a percentage of that profit from that player on the flip. Again, it does encourage people to, bring their cousin in who's only coming in for one purpose and one purpose only, to mint 10 properties for his cousin, and he's going to buy them from him, and it's really about enriching, and that's a form of multi-accounting, so we don't want that to happen. So that, I believe that's part of Upland's theory here, why they didn't want to have the announcement ahead. On the flip side, when I talk about those collection properties, regardless of if Upland says this is for FSA, which I agree it's for FSA, but because they made these rare collections, these exclusive collections, the majority of those exclusive and rare collections don't end up being available for FSA. The majority of those are available only for higher status players, because FSA players are not going to be sitting on 50,000 UPICs, which is the cost for some of these standalone properties. So what we're really talking about is two separate sales held in one sale. Yes, there's less of the properties that are specifically only available because of their price pointing, only available to higher level players. But those players obviously are going to be the ones who are most excited about the collection properties, and collection properties are what carry a lot of the excitement when it comes to a city release. So there was a lot of players who felt like, ooh, I did not get an announcement about when this was. I'm hurt. I wish I had the opportunity. You ended up having one or two people who stumbled in or were checking constantly, had the day off, or didn't have work to do at the time. They had to be in a part of the world where it was their evening and they were having dinner and they were watching and checking, and maybe it's time now, and jumped in at the exact right time. And those people actually had a concentrated benefits, assuming they had enough UPICs. They just keep buying because there was less competition, because people didn't know when to go and mint. On that point, or to that point, realistically, if people had known about it, you would still have concentrated benefit. We always do. Somebody makes a good gamble. Somebody makes the right line. Somebody sends to the right area, and they can mint faster than other people. You get people who complain or are concerned that their computer didn't work the right way and somebody else's did, and what was the failure there in between. But ultimately, there was an announcement. There was an announcement, and the announcement was, we're not going to tell you exactly when this is going to be. The announcement was that it was going to happen sometime in the next week. Look at the exact language. The cities are set to launch sometime in the next week. There's been some questions, some confusion about what that language actually meant. But to me, And I'm not the only person in the world, so there's definitely different interpretations out there. But to me, sometime in the next week means I'm giving you an announcement today. This announcement came out on the 5th. I'm giving you this announcement on the 5th. Sometimes in 7 days, you're going to have these cities released, which I think is what Upland intended for people to read. Some people may have read that differently, but they gave exactly what they said. No direct announcement about the time of release, and they were released sometime within 7 days of the announcement. And the collections are buying them on the secondary. But again, this idea that this was something that, again, benefited the people who were jumping in and who were active and who happened to be checking every hour, 100%. And I think there's some idea now that Upland wants to reward people who are more active. There's lots of reasons why people can't be more active. I've had days where I can't log into Upland for 16 hours straight just because that's what the way life is. There's a lot of people in that same position. I happen to be able to mint in the city of Stockton. What happened was early in the morning, the cities opened up. Transportation into the city was possible. Upland Bureau minted a property in both Stockton and Trenton where you could send to. They opened up the transportation so you could travel in. And that was a hint to me that these cities were going to open up sometime in the near future. Didn't mean it was going to open up in an hour. Didn't mean it was going to open up in a day. It didn't mean that at some point in the future. I took that as an opportunity to travel in. And as I'm flying from Chicago into San Francisco, I'm just thinking, oh, this could open at any time. This could open while I'm in the air. This could open in 2 days. I don't know. I get into San Francisco, obviously take the train into Stockton, and then I'm in this concept, or I operate with the concept that I have to keep checking if I want to actually hit it. So I'm checking on an hourly basis. Later in the day, I can guarantee you I wouldn't have been able to check on an hourly basis. I had meetings. It wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have worked for me. It happened to be the right time of day that I was checking on an hourly basis, and at 11 a.m. my time, 8 a.m. PT. That's when the release was. Again, it was on the hour, so people can argue whether or not that was really a random time because it was an on the hour time. But it happened to work out because that's what I was checking. I was checking an on the hour time. And the interesting thing is 8 a.m. PT lines up an hour earlier than we normally have sales. However, it's still during the work day for most people on Pacific time. It's in the middle of the day for people on the East Coast. It's different various parts of the day depending on where you are in the world. So it was just interesting that it wasn't at 2 o'clock in the morning, which we've had in the past, these weird stealth releases. It was more of probably a convenient time for people in an office at Upland to click the button and turn things on. So we did see that happen today. I do want to put a couple notes here. People have already asked the question. The answer's already been put out there. The answer was put out there in this particular announcement right here. So let's take a look at a couple things, and I'll touch on what people have been having a little bit of concern with, the questions on. 26,000 total properties in Trenton. Total properties in Stockton, 96,000. There's 19 neighborhoods in Stockton. Of those 19 neighborhoods, 2 were released up front. Of the 37 neighborhoods in New Jersey, look at that. 37 neighborhoods in New Jersey. You got initially 4 neighborhoods. Let's do the math there. The math is the majority of the city is not released. 85% of the properties overall in the city. Again, I say overall because some of the neighborhoods have higher concentrations of collections, which means they are going to have a lower percentage of overall FSA properties. But 85% overall for both cities are going to be FSA. That's a lot of FSA. 85% of, 85% of my 9,600 or 96,000, 85% of my 96,000. That's going to give me about 80,000 properties. Yeah, that's about right. About 80,000 properties in Stockton. That's going to give me in Trenton, that's going to give me a little over, right about 20,000 properties. So a little over 20,000 properties. So with that math, that would be a lot of people coming in and binding properties at 10 per account. Again, new players only. new players can only mint 10 FSA properties, and with the equivalent of approximately or about 100,000 new FSA properties, it's going to take a lot of time to get those 10,000 new players coming in to mint 10 properties each. So what that means is that Upland's going to stage when those neighborhoods go out. People are already saying, when's the next neighborhoods? When's the next neighborhoods? This neighborhood's going to have a bunch of rares in it. I want to get those rares. Again, we got to go back to this concept that Upland already has, which is these are not for you or these are not for me. That's the funny thing is there are certain things about this release that were not ideal for me. They were not ideal for people who are executives or chief executives or directors, but that's because the overall city was not for those people. There were properties that were very attractive to us, and many of us went out and put a little effort in. I put 500,000 UPIX in today. A lot of people didn't get the opportunity to mint a single one because they were gone pretty quickly. The ones that were available to non-FSA players, the collection properties obviously went pretty quickly, but this was something that really wasn't intended for me. So I kind of get that not everything was ideal to my anticipation, which was let me know ahead, give me a little time. Let's make sure everything's working fine. Everything worked fine for me. Everything seemed to work well for the city's alignments, and having the borders up. The borders were put up early in the day. It wasn't like it happened 2 seconds before they released. So it kind of was a little ticking clock. We saw that the outlines came in, the property outlines came in. If you floated over, just like you do when you have a city release, normally when you float over, you could see a price over property. So you kind of can start doing that math ahead. And then it was just ticking clock of headed to the release without knowing exactly when that release was. I do want to put a couple other takeaways here. Again, it opens smoothly. There will be expansion. The expansion, as we get these expansions, are going to be as Upland deems more FSAs are needed, which means you would expect to see the neighborhoods that are currently out in Trenton and Stockton to sell out or get close to it before Upland decides to open more neighborhoods. It's just the way we should expect to see this roll out. I do want to put a couple things so you do know. Treasure hunt tiering is 5 for both cities. Because these are tier 5 cities, we're not doing that weird thing that we did in London or Tokyo, where you start with a lower treasure hunt tier and it steps up. So even though there's a very limited portion of the cities that's released, when we do start the city, it's going to be in a tier 5 treasure hunt. Whether the small neighborhoods that are there make people more excited about treasure hunting there or not, we'll have to see. It's going to be the same treasure hunt tier from now until the city is fully released. Other thing worth noting here is both cities are tier 5s. That means the low send fee is 5 UPIX, the high send fee is 25 UPIX, and the default send fee is 10 UPIX. That means that these can be easier or less expensive cities to navigate. It tends to mean that there's lower UPX per UP2. I was buying properties today at 50 UPX per UP2. That's some of the least expensive properties we've had in the game for a very long time. We had some inexpensive properties in Detroit a little over a year ago, or way over a year ago at this point. In Detroit, way over a year ago at this point. But this is the lowest price we've had in a long time. Fresno was even lower, but this is kind of like the Fresno of 2024 as far as I was concerned. So I was very happy to buy some inexpensive properties. I understand that because there wasn't that long-term announcement with a guaranteed time, I was one of the few who was in that position. But it's kind of interesting to be able to have properties you can put a factory 2 or a medium factory 2 on that costs less than 50,000 UPIX. It's kind of a big deal. So I was excited about that. It does bode well. It gives me opportunity to have those properties if I wanted to do so, if I wanted to build factories in the city of Stockton. And it also kind of gives us this hint that Stockton's pretty inexpensive, so is Trenton. So when we do go ahead and have future neighborhoods, and you have very, very few of those properties that are outside of FSA, but you have some, those are properties to potentially target if you want to look for the larger ones and potentially have those for later use. I do, want to put this concept out there as well. the need to see players come into Upland, new players who can come in and enjoy the game of Upland and have a place to start and a stepping stone up as they learn the game is important. The fact that Upland has set aside potentially enough properties for more than 10,000 players to come in and get established is good. The idea that Upland can continue to do this by continuing to identify smaller cities and essentially creating those as pathways specifically for FSA players with very limited focus on the higher tier players in the game, the higher level status players in the game. I see the value of that, and I'm glad they're doing it. It does limit what's available for you or I, or for the higher status players in the game. But there's other opportunities for people to participate in. Really, there was very few opportunities for FSA players in Tokyo. There was very few opportunities for FSA players in London, and I'm sure we'll get expansions. I'm sure we'll get new cities at some point where we're going to see even more properties for the higher status, the higher tier players in the game of Upland. So understand that the game of Upland has to be there for a wide variety of players in order to be there for anybody. It cannot be too selective. It cannot be just for one type of player, because otherwise the game would fail to exist. There would not be enough appeal. There would not be cycling. There would not be people coming in new with the theory that they want to grow, eventually growing into a higher status in the game, only because there was newer players after them coming in the game, and there was reasons for those players to engage with the game or opportunities for them to do so as well. So I'm glad it works as well as it did. I know people were a little bit miffed that not everybody knew when this was going to happen, but again, according to plan as far as Upland's concerned, and it was a plan that I saw because it was in the announcement, luckily, pretty clearly. One other big announcement today, again, announcement that's not an announcement, is kind of just a rollover of what kind of happened here today, with the sale here, with a little bit of a countdown here, right? The Monster Mayhem Madness, or Monsters Unleashed sale, just as a reminder, did happen yesterday. We have the countdown clock in place here. Again, next Tuesday is the registration. Next Wednesday is the sale. Snapshot is on Monday. So you have to hold on to those map assets, or be holding those map assets at the time of snapshot if you want the chance to buy cards. As I said last night, I am going to do the reminder here, hopefully in a lot less time than last night. There's very few of the trucks that are going to be available. There is a whopping total of 20 of the Monsters Mayhem monster truck. There's a total, I apologize, I flipped that. The Tiny Monsters is 20. The Monsters Mayhem is 10. That's it. Even though that there were 360 sets sold that were essentially the gate passes, the opportunity part of the cart sale, the carts that's going to happen on next Wednesday, there's only 30 total trucks that are going to be available. The trucks are obviously the reward for the burn event. The burn event is going to be by burning one of each in the same series. One of each of a total of 3. The Noodle Fang, Gumble Guts, and Buggle Walk on the what's the name Upland's giving us? The Monsters Mayhem side of things. On the Tiny Monsters side of things, the Ghost, the Frankenstein, and the Pumpkin. 20 of those. Again, 20 of those Frankensteins, which is a limiting factor. You have to burn one of each if you want to burn and get the Tiny Monster truck, Tiny Monsters monster truck. It is an interesting thing. It is something to go into with your eyes open. If you're going to try to get all 3 of these cards, you're probably going to have to buy at least one of them in the secondary, as it's going to be a competitive sale. There's going to be a registration period. You're probably only going to be able to buy one before they all sell out, if you can even buy one before they all sell out. And then you're going to end up, of course, with the rarest one determining who ends up getting what. You have to end up with the rarest, and then obviously the second rarest, and then the most common. all three of those in order to get the burn and to get the truck. And of course, if you only have 10 noodle things and you only have 20 Frankensteins, the people who hold those are going to be the one that are able to burn and get the reward. The pricing on this obviously is USD only. I point that out just to say in the past we've had options of both USD and UPX. That was an option on the totems. That was an option early in the season on NFLPA. And then at the end of the year here on the NFLPA bundles as well, USD only. I would love to see more UPX sales. There's other ways to earn UPX. People are selling properties that they bought in UPX to get UPX, to be participant in different sales along the way. And I don't think that necessarily the concept of the ability to spend UPX for things other than property has sunsetted. I just think that we had a bunch of USD only sales. Upland, would love to see some more UPX directed sales. There's a lot I do to earn my UPX. Some of it is flipping and selling properties. Some of it could be selling, through a shop on secondary. Some of it could be UGC activity. But it'd be nice to be able to take that UPX that I choose to keep in the game of Upland, not to try to sell it to USD, but try to keep in the game of Upland to buy these assets as we move along. But other than those two things, other than the fact that little bit salty continuing to see USD only sales, I put USD in for these sales. I do want to participate. I do want one of those trucks. I'm going to put a little bit of effort in to get one of those trucks. I will tell you for sure that luck is probably not going to be on my side to get one of the 10, to get one of the 20. So I'll have to decide where that line is for me to buy in the secondary. It's possible people will sell UPX on the secondary. It could be a lot of UPX that they've been asking for. It could be USD, even in excess of the $35 USD to buy each car. It puts the overall cost of one of these cars at minting of all the items, if you were able to mint all the items, of a minimum of about $130. Keep in mind, you're not going to be able to buy 3 carts on primary. You're going to end up buying on secondary. So that's going to inflate the cost, and someone's going to make a profit, and good for them. That's the way a lot of people play the game of Upland, but it's going to inflate the cost of these cards, these trucks, these monster trucks. So keep that in mind. When you go to buy your first cart, keep in mind the additional costs likely necessary if you are actually going to get to the end and be able to burn. With that, we did get a late start. We are going to get a quick finish here so we can say goodnight. But thank you so much for being here. We're looking forward to 3 things over the weekend. Again, Monster Truck is next week, or the cart sale, and then that's going to burn into the Monster Trucks is going to be next week. Wednesday is a sale of the carts. This Saturday, remember Saturday 9 a.m. PT is a sale of those bundles. If you're interested, registrations tomorrow starting at 8 a.m. PT. And then, of course, our burn event for NFLPA legits to potentially win a one of 10 of these replicas for each team. So a total of 20 for the big game. That is going to be from today, already started 9 a.m. PT into Saturday 9 a.m. PT. So those are the things to watch out for over the weekend. We will see how those all work out, and again, be back here tomorrow night. I was going to give you the wrong time zone. Tomorrow 7 p.m. PT, we'll be back here for another day. And then, of course, next week we'll be back here again, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. PT, like we always are. Thank you so much for being here tonight. As always, if you're part of the Discord, if you're in the Discord currently, please feel free to unmute your mics. The floor is yours.